Hi, Nick.
So how's everyone doing today?
Good. How are you, Nick?
Doing fantastic. Deb, you look bundled up and enduring our sub-zero temperatures there.
I am.
Where you were timeshare in the Sun Belt there?
Yeah, we're down in Orlando.
It sounds like a beautiful time of year to be there. Elaine and I lived in Jacksonville for a month last winter, January to February, and this winter is a lot longer for some reason. I don't know why. It just feels a little bit longer.
Yeah. We came down at the right time. It's been in the 80s down here while you guys have been dealing with those icky cold fronts coming through.
Oh yeah. We we've got quite a few properties that we own and manage, and frozen water mains and frozen pipes and furnaces that are struggling to keep up, and all the usual excitement that goes with exciting weather.
Ick.
So Stephanie, where are you right now? You're probably like a few blocks away from Deb.
No, I'm in Arizona.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought you were in Florida. You were in Florida a short time ago, though.
Yes.
Perfect. Anyone else somewhere warm right now?
No, we got frost outside.
Well, we're going to make sure it gets nice and warm in here. Hopefully we have a fun and playful class today. Today we're going to be talking about polarity in relationships. This was our most popular class last year. Got a ton of views, ton of feedback. Lots of people that I feel like their lives were impacted by this class. This is kind of my favorite class to teach, and hopefully you take something away today that just might change your life just a little bit, and change the way that you communicate with the intimate people in your life, whether that be your significant other, your clients, or anyone whose life you seek to impact or change. Understanding masculine and feminine energy is a critical part of the human experience, and it's something that I think people feel a little bit awkward talking about, and it's something that I feel like we as a society don't quite know how to handle these days. There's a lot of confusion about that, and it can be a faux pas topic to talk about, and it's only when we don't talk about things that we give those things power and forfeit our own power. So we're here to maybe get a little uncomfortable today, and to talk about the thing in life that gives us the most energy. I would argue that when we understand who we are at our core, and we're able to tap into our masculine and feminine energy, That is the greatest source of power, the greatest source of energy in the entire human experience. Before we get too deep, does anyone want to share anything that they want to solve today? Something they want to learn today? What brought you here today?
Hey, I do want to wish, isn't it Steph's birthday today?
It is.
Happy birthday, Steph.
Thank you.
So is everyone living charmed, perfect lives with the people they have the closest relationships with? No one has a problem to solve today. You don't have to share if you don't want to, but we just might get somewhere if you do.
I think for us, consolidating expectations has always been one of the being on the same wavelength as far as what we expect to happen in this time frame versus longer frame time. Things along, I guess, speed that things can be reasonably accomplished and meshing that with reality.
Absolutely.
That's his code for I'm impatient.
Impatient.
Me.
Interesting.
Not him.
Interesting. We'll dive into that one here a little bit if you want to. We certainly don't have to. So impatience, what kind of energy does that sound like to you?
It sounds like pretty negative energy. I guess maybe.
I think myself as a very impatient person. Patience is a virtue that I do not possess.
Mm-hmm.
Do we think of impatience as a characteristic of masculine energy or a characteristic of feminine energy?
I don't know. What do you think?
I just view it as raw energy. It's like excitement as far as I'm, that the impatience
Now
is.
we've made some huge headway, haven't we? Words are powerful. Only we have the authority to choose what anything in our whole life means. And the words, the vocabulary that we choose to use, assigns tremendous meaning to it, doesn't it? I don't feel overwhelmed. I feel fascinated. I don't feel impatient. I feel overwhelmingly excited. Gosh, I love that word. It just brings a smile on my face. Now this might seem like a game to you, right? This might seem like some trick or mechanic. I promise you, there are no games here today. There are no games when it comes to masculine and feminine energy. If we play those games, that's how we get lost, as so many people are today. So would you agree that if we talked about how excited we are, we would be, you mentioned a wavelength, on a wavelength that would make us better able to get onto the same wavelength and to be in an abundance mindset and to be solution seeking instead of problem seeking. Mm-hmm. So what are you so excited about?
Just getting started. This is, all of my life I've been geared up towards learning about science, and I just kind of viewed my future existence as a 9-to-5 filling hours kind of job. The excitement built around this new mindset for me is both exciting, intimidating, and empowering. So all of those,
so
all those things together.
You're excited or your wife is excited? Which way did we?
Both of us are, but I think we both handle it in different ways.
We're both excited. You're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
In that regard, sure.
For sure. Yes.
Sure. What we do with that energy is the challenge.
I'm sorry, what's your wife's name?
Amy. This is Amy.
Hey, Amy. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Your couples are welcome to attend this class. It doesn't have to be a one-seater kind of thing.
You can have the chair.
What are you so excited about that Mike is not excited about? That Mike is less excited about. I made a mistake there.
I don't know if it's that we're less excited or not, or if that we're on different levels of excitation. I think it's more that we just kind of express excitement in different ways. Like, I tend to want to go do it right away. Like, get right on it, get started, get going, figure it out, move to the next thing, move to the next thing. I think that's where my excitement goes. And what can you say about your?
I analyze and analyze.
Mm-hmm.
I'll sit down and crunch numbers and make sure that whatever it is and oftentimes that can lead to procrastination.
Absolutely. Analysis paralysis.
Right.
So this is an interesting thing to me because feminine energy tends to be more feeling, and masculine energy tends to be a little more thinking, a little more cold and analytical, and that can be really frustrating to feminine energy. When feminine energy knows what it wants, it knows what it wants. There's no questioning that. There's no analyzing that. And when masculine energy wants to analyze that, it's insulting. It questions the wisdom of feminine energy. And let me ask you this, Mike. Does your wife often have an intuition about something? Just a crazy idea that the stove is left on, or that you've forgotten something at home, or something of that nature?
Well, sure. And I've come up with all kinds of fail-safes to automate and come up with ways to make sure that those things aren't the case. So, yes.
Let me ask you this: how frequently is she right? How frequently is that intuition correct?
Enough that I think the systems are worthwhile.
Right. So it can be a real downer when feminine energy has a drive, an intuition, and the response is to analyze that. Let me be crazy transparent and share with you my own story here. So this was a breakthrough in my personal relationship. So a couple of years ago, my wife and I, we were thinking about getting snow tires for our car. Well, let me be clear about this. My wife was thinking about getting snow tires for our car, and this was a lot of money back then. You know, it's like $800 or something like that to get snow tires for our car. And one day she was just like, Nick, I really want to get snow tires in the car. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a great idea. I'm very excited about that. Let me do some analysis, which was just like an immediate zap to her energy. She's like, no, I want to get tires. What's the thing she wanted me to do?
Acknowledge and validate.
Absolutely. We as human beings, we are always seeking validation above all else. Masculine and feminine energy, forget about it. We want to be validated. We want to know that the people who are closest to us in our life care about us and trust us and want to pursue the things that we want to pursue. And when you analyze the intuition of feminine energy, it zaps that trust. That analysis in your mind is just like normal due diligence, right? If you had a great idea, before you took action on it, you'd do some analysis, right?
Right.
That's a very masculine energy kind of thing to do. And that is not something that computes with feminine energy. And as a person who loves a good spreadsheet, who's very analytical, I have some beautiful mind kind of spreadsheets out there that are way too deep. I can tell you that it can be an advantage, but it can also be a disadvantage. I think that one of the best ways to figure out anything in life is to just take action and to iterate and improve and figure out whether or not it makes sense to do something based on having done it. And that analysis paralysis can more frequently be a vice than a virtue. So going back to my snow tires story, my wife wanted to get snow tires, and me being an idiot, I did not see that she just wanted validation. I said, I love that idea. Let's do some analysis. And she's like, no, let's just get some snow tires. I said, no, okay. So we're going to look at the total cost of the snow tires, and we're going to see what kind of difference those snow tires make in the traction characteristics of our vehicles. Like, surely there's some studies out there that have been done on like changes in stopping distance and reduced incidence of accidents. And like, I'm super excited about this analysis, and she is furious at me. And when I did my analysis, which didn't take too long, I came back to her and I said, I'll be honest, I didn't think we wanted to get snow tires. You've asked for snow tires before. We've never gotten them because they're so expensive. But the analysis indicates that we can swap them in and out year to year. We can make them last for several years. They do significantly improve your traction, reduce the odds of an accident. Congratulations, you were right and I was wrong. We're getting snow tires, baby. Do you think that got her motor running?
All signs point to no.
My analysis validated her position. Yeah, she was just super juiced about that. No, she was even more angry about it. And then I was angry that she was angry because I'm like, listen, I'm on your side, lady. What? This is not fair. this is not fair that your feelings override my analysis. My analysis is right and your feelings, well, they're just feelings. Let me ask you this, Mike. What makes us happy or sad in life? What makes us fulfilled or unfulfilled? What gives us energy or takes our energy away? Is it the things in our life, the objective reality, the thinking, the analysis, or is it the way we feel about things? Is it that it's 68 degrees or that it's cold in here?
In relationships, I think the thing that makes us feel is to feel loved and validated and comforted and connected. In space and just objectively, to not feel like something needs to change in order to feel better, to feel like you have everything you need in that moment and time.
It sounds like a very analytical description of the word gratitude. I feel like I'm getting a lot of insight into your soul here, Mike, and it's a beautiful soul. I would argue, and I have not felt this way my whole life, but I would argue that it does not matter what the temperature is in this room. It matters whether or not I think it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue that the most precious resource in your life is not time or money or any actual resource that you do or do not have at your disposal. It's whether or not you live in abundance and gratitude, or whether or not you live in scarcity and fear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's how you feel about those things in your life. It does not matter if you have snow tires or not. It matters whether or not you feel good about those snow tires. And that's the point that I missed completely. So for the next chapter in the snow tire story, because this is a multi-chapter story, my wife wanted the snow tires, and I said, congratulations, we're getting snow tires, and she's upset about it, and I don't know why. And then we get the damn snow tires, and she's still upset about it, and now I'm upset about it because I didn't even want the snow tires, and she was right and I was wrong, and we got the snow tires, and she's still not happy. Months go by, and we quietly fume about these damn snow tires, and it eats away at our relationship just a little bite at a time. Do relationships die quickly or slowly?
Very slowly, day by day, not talking, not communicating.
Very slowly. We don't get fat overnight. We do it one day at a time. We might fall in love in a moment. I know I did with my wife, but we don't fall out of love in a moment. It happens a little bit at a time, and I felt that happening, and it ate at me that I was failing my wife, that I was missing something, and I was mad at her about that too. And one day I had a breakthrough, and it was all related to polarity. I got some really good coaching, some really good advice, and I went back to my wife and I said, these snow tires, I'm going to take a guess, and I'm going to be honest, this doesn't make any sense to me, but I think it's right. You didn't want snow tires. You wanted me to want snow tires. And she said, yeah, that's exactly right. I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I didn't want snow tires. I was trying to analyze her feminine intuition. And I said, I'm going to take another guess, and this one makes even less sense to me in this moment, but I think it's right. If we hadn't gotten snow tires, but I wanted to get them, it wouldn't matter to you either way. You'd still be happy. Is that true? She said, yep, that's exactly right. And that's something that made no sense to me in my masculine mindset, but I was just beginning to understand this thing, this polarity thing that we're talking about today. Does it make sense to you, Mike, why my wife would want me to want snow tires?
It would make it togetherness. It would make us feel like we were moving towards a common goal, and That I understood her.
That you understood her. That's right. That you heard her. And that you were helping her feel safe. The three things that shut down feminine energy above all else, if you take nothing away from this call, feminine energy is shut down by feeling unheard, not understood, and most importantly, feeling unsafe. Those are the three things that completely zap feminine energy. And I was nailing all three of them at once as a tour de force. So first of all, I was ignoring not what she was saying, but what she was feeling. She was saying, I wanted snow tires, but how was she feeling when she was saying that she wanted snow tires?
Unsafe. She didn't feel like the tires she was driving on were safe for what she needed to be on.
That's right. And I did not seek first to understand. I did not seek first to empathize. I did not try to respect the intuition of my wife. And so I had missed the boat right away. And then I took the insult one step further and tried to analyze her intuition and tried to delay or procrastinate. And that further demonstrated that I did not trust her feelings. I did not understand her feelings. I was not listening to her and what she really wanted. And now that I was in a mind space where I could understand what her needs were, what her feelings were, I was actually listening to her, not hearing the words she was saying, but understanding the feeling behind those words. I could do something else that was much more powerful. I could say, okay, now that I want snow tires, not because I want snow tires, but because your needs are my needs. And because you need snow tires, I need snow tires. Now that I am in this space, I can ask you, why? I never asked that question in all that analysis. Why is always the most important question. The what, the how, that's irrelevant. That is 1% of the consequence. It's the why. Oh, I don't know. One day I just said, gosh, I really want some snow tires. I said, well, we've talked about this for a little while, and it seems like it's been like a couple of years since when did you start wanting snow tires? Like, we never had snow tires before. I don't know. I guess it's been a couple of years now that I've wanted snow tires. Well, what happened a couple of years ago? Amy, we're almost done here. I promise you. We're not gonna spend the whole 2 hours on y'all. And
No, she's not. Wait, sorry.
I'm coming back in just a
I'm
second.
giving you a hard time. It's tough on Zoom.
I didn't lose you. You didn't lose me.
It's been a couple of years now. Well, what happened a couple of years ago? Well, I slipped on the ice and I broke my ankle. And all these years it's been eating at her that we weren't taking this basic precaution with our vehicle. It was a life-altering injury. It totally changed the course of our entire life. She was bedridden for months and had to have surgery and pins and plates and screws and all that good stuff. And the most basic connection, and I think of myself as a pretty sharp guy, but this is not something that masculine energy is very good at. I had to tap into my feminine energy to really empathize with my wife and understand this. Well, yeah, if you slip and fall on the ice and it totally changes your life, you're going to want to take every humanly reasonable precaution to not slip on the ice, even if it's your car slipping on the ice. In this paradigm, doesn't it seem like the most reasonable thing in the world to get snow tires for your car?
Absolutely.
You could say, like, hey, you slipped on the ice in your boots, not in your car. The two are different, but they're really not. In a moment, I got a deep insight, not into my wife, not into myself. I mean, I got those things too, but into the nature of communication, of rapport, of influence. It does not matter what you say. And it kind of doesn't matter how you make people feel, as the saying goes. It matters whether or not you understand how they feel and whether or not you're putting their needs first. This is something that comes very natively to feminine energy, and it's something that does not come so natively to masculine energy. We think that feminine energy is something for the ladies, masculine energy is something for the fellas. I'm telling you that these are huge sources of power that anyone can tap into. And the most powerful people that you have ever met, that you have ever heard of, they have both. They can connect with people. They can empathize with people. They can put themselves in their shoes. And when the moment is right, they can tell them to snap out of it and to bring that masculine energy and help lead them to the next step, to the next choice, to the next level. And you have to have both. I'm leading with feminine energy today because that's just kind of the read I get on the room. And we're going to bring some masculine energy today. The most powerful people in the world, they are somewhat androgynous. If you're watching like a music video or something and you see that lead singer who you might think of as like a model of masculine power, I promise you his costume is very colorful and well appointed, and he's glistening and wearing makeup. And he is simultaneously the man that every man wants to be, and also the man that every woman wants. And vice versa. Like when you see Beyonce out there doing her thing, you see this woman who is a being of unlimited feminine power, who has the ability to draw in masculine energy. And yet you see this woman is a tiger and is also full of masculine power, this multi-million-dollar empire. I promise you that the least powerful people in your life are the people who have neither. Have you ever met someone and they just kind of fall flat? You just don't have any kind of chemistry with them. Like it's like they're not even there. It's like you're talking to a cardboard cutout. These are people who don't understand masculine and feminine energy. They have that huge well of energy within themselves, but they feel afraid of it. Maybe their mommy told them when they were a boy that they should be ashamed of that. That it's not something that, in our Puritan culture, it's something that's very faux pas. European culture is much less afraid to talk about masculine, feminine energy. If you can learn to tap into masculine, feminine energy within yourself and use the correct energy when the time is right, you can accomplish anything. You can connect with anyone. Polarity is the ultimate rapport building skill. It's a lens to see the entire world. It's a way to understand people's needs and how to communicate with them. We're going to talk today about how to sharpen or clarify that lens. So in a moment, you can tell, is that person right now leading with dominant masculine or feminine energy? Is this a person who is dominant masculine and feminine energy? And what is it that they need from us in order to feel connected, to feel validated, to feel heard and understood and free? I hope you take some of these messages to heart and it changes your life just a little bit. So I've got some slides to run through. Let's dive in. I hope that was a valuable exercise for you there, Mike and Amy. So what is polarity? Can someone try to describe to me what they think polarity is?
I think yin and yang is often used.
That's right. I actually have a yin and yang on this slide deck here. That's the slide that I lead with. What does it mean to anyone here? Masculine, feminine energy. I want to make sure I'm not talking past anyone here. We dove into a little bit of a case study there, and I hope we get a chance to connect with a few other people while we share a couple hours here together today. But let's get really basic. What do you think masculine and feminine energy is? It doesn't just have to be Mike. Anyone else is welcome to chime in here. This is a two-way conversation. Rachel, it looks like you're talking, but I don't think I'm hearing you. I'm really excited to hear what Rachel has to say. So here's a quick chart that I'm going to show you, and it's some characteristics of masculine and feminine energy. And I hate to ever have like a wall of text like this, but I think it's very helpful. So you can see how some of these things are a little bit opposed to one another or orthogonal to one another, and I think that that's an easy trap to fall into. I think of that as a zero-sum game kind of mindset. What's another way you could look at these different characteristics?
I don't think the share screen's popped up.
Oh, it says I'm sharing my screen on my end, but y'all don't see anything?
Yeah, unless I'm looking at the wrong menu.
I can see it.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Never mind. Sorry.
So feminine energy is often trying to fill up. Masculine energy is trying to empty. Masculine energy likes to leave things behind. You cannot tell feminine energy to let it go, despite what Frozen says. Feminine energy likes to experience love. Masculine energy likes to experience freedom. These things seem a little bit opposed, don't they? I actually think they're very complementary. I think that our Creator made us to be very complementary beings, and these are very complementary energies. And each person has within them powerful masculine and feminine energy. And I hope you can see how these energies would be very complementary to one another. And when you can tap into these energy sources, there's a time for freedom, and there's a time for love. There's a time to gather, and there's a time to empty. And if we are really strong masculine energy all the time, or a really strong feminine energy all the time, it's going to leave us imbalanced. And I think that in any partnership, in any intimate relationship that has juice, that has spark, there is polarity. So I told you the three things that shut down feminine energy, and that's the most important thing you take away. The second most important thing would be that intimate relationships never die due to lack of love. I think that's like a common myth that we fall into. We think that if we can only just understand our partner and meet their needs, then we're going to have a great relationship. But that's not true. We're going to have a great friendship, a very mutually beneficial relationship, but there's not going to be any spark. That spark comes from polarity. It's not just a saying that opposites attract. It's completely true. And so if you are not feeding the energy of your partner with your complementary energy, you will not have a spark in your relationship. And I promise you that when we are at our most intimate moments, our dominant energy is what needs feeding more than anything. And when it's not fed, we feel unfulfilled, we feel hungry, and there's no spark, there's no juice, there's no energy. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, Mike, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm sure you and your wife can sit down with a spreadsheet and have a great conversation to plan your budget. And she can bring her masculine energy and her thinking and not her feeling. But you're probably not gonna, that's probably not a good preamble for a date night, right?
No.
Whereas if you just asked her right now, Amy, what is it that you want more than anything? And you did that thing. You didn't even think about it. You just went out and you did it. I think you're going to have a pretty good date night after that. I promise you, you will. When you feed that feminine energy, when you give it what it needs, it will make sure that you have everything you could ever desire. This is what keeps intimate relationships together. And if we're not honest about this, we're not going to get what we want. How do we get what we want in life, in any aspect of life?
Communicate.
Communicate. That's right.
Meeting someone else's needs first.
That's right. Zig Ziglar said, you can have anything that you want as long as you give other people everything that they want. And it's completely true. We have to just tell the universe what we need, and we have to meet the needs of others. And if we do that, our needs will be met. That's how the universe works. That's how human beings work. That's how we're created. So we've got a chat message here from Rachel. Darn, sorry, I guess my mic doesn't work anymore. Masculine versus feminine energy is a duality. At its best, it works together in a beautiful flow of energy, and at its worst, it fights itself and tears itself apart. That's exactly right. All the time, I do a lot of coaching with people about financial freedom, about passive income. We know that masculine energy above all else needs freedom, and feminine energy above all else needs security. So financial freedom, who does that speak to? What energy does that speak to?
In our relationship, the polarity is a little reversed. I stayed home with the kids, and for us, we're going into financial freedom so that she's not tied to an abusive work schedule.
I love that transparency. Absolutely love it. So financial freedom, I think that's something that speaks to masculine energy. But what's another word for financial freedom? If masculine energy needs freedom and feminine energy needs security, what's another word for financial freedom?
Security.
Financial security.
Financial security. It's the exact same concept, isn't it? It's just using two polar opposite words to describe it. We think of security and freedom being really opposed concepts. And just as Rachel said, we can tear each other apart with these opposed mindsets. But with just a small pivot, just a little bit of understanding and empathy, you can see how these things are in perfect alignment. And financial freedom can give you financial security, and financial security can give you financial freedom. To get a little bit more vulnerable, in our intimate relationships, we talk a lot about these two concepts, don't we? We talk about emotional security, about security in our relationship. How is that the same or different from having freedom in a relationship? I don't know if they necessarily have to be separate concepts. I think that when you're in a very secure and honest to God secure relationship, you're in a very free relationship. We can think of a caricature of two significant others who don't trust one another. And the guy wants to go out and do his thing, and the girl doesn't want him to, wants him to stay close at all times because she's afraid that he might cheat on her or whatever. This is a relationship that has neither freedom nor security. And yet, if it was a perfectly secure relationship where there was total trust between those two partners, neither of those things would be an issue. And I can tell you, somewhere in the world, there is a knockdown, drag out, brawl of a fight going on over this exact tug, this tug of war between those two things. But when you see it for what it is, there's no conflict at all. There's no zero-sum game. There's no opposed interests. You need to have complete security in order to have complete freedom. You need to have complete freedom in order to have complete security. If you want security, the way most people think of it, you need to go to prison. You've got your 3 square meals a day. You're going to be in this room at all times. You live in a perfectly predictable universe, but we don't live in a perfectly predictable universe. And I don't think of prison as a very welcome source of security. And so I would encourage people out there who are dominant feminine energy to think very critically about what their idea of security is. And I would encourage people who are very dominant masculine energy to think very critically about what their idea of freedom is and how you can easily meet everyone's needs. So my wife spends about 23 hours per day with me and has for quite some time now because she recently, stepped back from medicine. We're, financially free. She doesn't need to practice any medicine. Doesn't need to practice medicine anymore if she doesn't want to. She still can. Again, talking about security and freedom there. And so she works on our business full time. And I can promise you, there's a lot of fellas on the line here who think about the idea of their significant other spending 23 hours a day with them, and they are mortified by that. Well, how the heck could I have any freedom if my partner was with me all the time? But fortunately, we have a pretty secure relationship. And so I don't worry about that sense of freedom. I would be lying if I said it was just perfect all the time. And there was a time in my life just a few years ago when that concept would be terrifying to me. If I couldn't go punch a clock and get away from my wife for 8 to 12 hours per day, I would feel smothered. But because we have such a secure relationship, because all of her needs are met, there's no tug, there's no push and pull here, there's no give and take. All of our needs are perfectly met. There's a perfect symbiosis here, and it's a beautiful thing. So I want to make it clear that I'm practicing what I preach here, and it's tough to spend 23 hours a day with your significant other, and many times it's 24 hours a day, but sometimes it's 22 hours a day. We'll say 23 on average. It's very tough to have a subpar relationship when you're spending this much time with someone. And I promise you that communication is your way to a better relationship. The quality of your relationships is a direct outcome of the quality of your communication. And I've been with my wife for 10 years. We didn't just have amazing communication out of the gate. We went on a vacation together early in our relationship, and when we got back, I'm like, I just need some time to myself for the next several days. I need to just not be with you. And fortunately, I don't feel that way today because I don't feel that pull in our relationship. But it's a perfectly normal thing to feel, and you shouldn't be ashamed of it. It's only when we don't talk about these things that we give these things power. So we had a slide here where we're looking at masculine and feminine energy, and these are just some characteristics of masculine and feminine energy. And we're going to circle back around to why it's so powerful to understand these things. I don't want to just run through these things, but does it make sense to you how masculine energy wants to be appreciated and feminine energy wants to be understood? Does that resonate with anyone here on the call? I'm losing my video participants here.
Yes,
so
it does.
Nodding. I'm not seeing as many nodding heads. We often think of masculine energy as being really, really self-assured and really confident. The greatest strength and the greatest weakness of masculine energy is its propensity for overconfidence. I think if you surveyed 100 guys, 99 of them would overestimate their capability to win a fist fight. But that's what gives us the irrational courage to get into a fist fight and to defend our home and to protect the cave from the lion. And what masculine energy needs more than anything is to be unleashed and to be left free to work that power, and then most importantly, to be appreciated. Masculine energy is strangely insecure. I think this is something we often associate with feminine energy, but masculine energy is very insecure, and it needs a lot of appreciation. It needs some care and feeding, some validation, some reassurance from feminine energy, and it cannot get this from masculine energy. When I'm at the gym and I'm like, hey bro, you're pushing some big weights over there, or whatever it is that, I don't know, I'm not sure what the stereotypical expression is there. That's not the kind of validation that masculine energy needs. Why are all these fellas working out at the gym? Are they doing it? Well, I guess for men who are attracted to other men, then yeah, I suppose so. But even within male-male relationships, gendered relationships, there is always one partner who's dominant masculine energy and one partner who's dominant feminine energy. I promise you, look at any successful couple, it does not matter what the genders are, there is always that duality, or there's no juice. Like they're really just friends, if we're honest about it. I promise you that masculine energy is doing whatever it's doing, it's achieving whatever it's achieving to achieve recognition and appreciation from feminine energy. It's oxygen to masculine energy. And can you see how that could be a perfect complement to feminine energy needing to be understood? And this is not some coincidence. This is not some mystery of the universe. This makes perfect sense. This is how we were created. This is how we evolved. If we think about a scenario that's easy to understand. I don't know why my slide's not coming up here. Let me try it this way here. So we imagine caveman and we imagine cavewoman, right? And we imagine these people surviving in the wild. What caveman wants to do, what caveman was put on this earth to do, what masculine energy needs above all else, is to have something worth dying for. Martin Luther King Jr. said that a man who has not found something worth dying for is not fit to live. What a world we live in today. I'm 38 years old and I'm surrounded by 30-year-old men raised by women who have nothing worth dying for. We're man boys who have not found a cause and certainly don't understand what masculine and feminine energy is or needs and what women need. And we are hungry, starving for something to die for. We want to protect the cave. And we want to respond to the call of feminine energy. So visualize, if you will, caveman is sitting over here weaving a basket, and cave woman is over here taking care of the cave babies. And cave woman is checking in with caveman. Let me ask you this. Does feminine energy like constant communication? Is that something that's valuable to feminine energy? I think so. I think so.
I'm seeing a nod.
It's something that can be a really confounding thing to masculine energy. But why is it so critical? Why is it that feminine energy is insecure? Again, we think of feminine energy as like associated with an insecurity because it needs that communication. Why is it so important that feminine energy needs to constantly check in with masculine energy? So caveman's over here weaving his basket, and cave woman is checking in with him. Hey, how you doing over there? You still know I'm over here, right? And 5 minutes go by. What's that, Mike and Amy?
Oh, I was going to say making sure the masculine energy hasn't checked out.
That's right. That's exactly right. So
For safety.
for safety. That's ultimately what it comes down to. We can pretend that we drive cars and have cell phones, and we have evolved beyond being caveman and cave woman, and that will deny our true inner self that can really leave us fulfilled and happy. Because cave woman over there is constantly checking the horizon for a lion, and she is constantly checking on caveman to make sure he's listening. And should that lion come over the horizon, caveman's going to be ready to fight that lion, to die, to fend off that lion. And that's what caveman wants to do, but masculine energy tends to be a runaway freight train to a very specific goal. It tends to be laser focused. It is not situationally aware. That's what feminine energy is. And it really likes to be focused on making that basket. And it feels very bothered that feminine energy is constantly checking in to make sure that caveman's still there. What happens if cave woman checks in every 5 minutes for a day and caveman never says anything? What's the inescapable conclusion that cave woman has to come to? What's the totally reasonable, rational conclusion that cave woman has to come to? Because caveman's just so focused on his basket.
She has to watch for the tigers herself.
That's right. That she can't count on caveman. She might need to go find a different caveman who is going to acknowledge that he's there, ready when the lion comes. And when feminine energy can't count on masculine energy to just say, hi, yes, I hear you, I understand you, you're safe. Feminine energy needs to take a back seat. And a woman has to say, you know what, I am the person who needs to go sharpen the spear and check the perimeter and make sure that the family is going to be protected. And instantly, that relationship is depolarizing. When that interdependence is lost, the juice is gone. You can be co-located. Caveman's over there making his basket, and cave woman's over there sharpening her spear. And caveman might even be like, hey, she's sharpening a spear. That's something I like doing. I'm really excited about this. We have interests in common now. Not realizing that their relationship is in peril. And we live in a modern world where women feel the need to literally put on shoulder pads and to, I call it putting on a game face, to lead with masculine energy throughout their entire workday. And by the way, when does the workday stop for us these days?
Does it?
Exactly. So people with dominant masculine or dominant feminine energy, they have to wear this mask all day, every day, and it is exhausting. And men of my generation who want to be dominant masculine energy, what messaging do we hear? And I realize this is a very privileged and potentially like controversial conversation to have. I'm open to any alternate ideas here, but men, I was born in 1983. I'm 38 years old. What's the mantra that I've heard since I was a little boy?
Like a feeling that you're not enough, or is it
And what are you told
Oh.
you have to do?
be a man?
Yeah, like buck up, be a man.
No emotion.
Yes, I would agree. I think that we all struggle with a feeling that we're not enough. And I think that masculine energy is far more susceptible to that feeling. And I think that feminine energy is more susceptible to the feeling that they're not loved. Because masculine energy that's not enough, what happens to masculine energy? Looking at our slide here.
Bear food.
That's right, you're bear food. And feminine energy that isn't loved, what happens to feminine energy that isn't loved?
Goes somewhere else looking for it.
Or your bear food, right? Because you don't have a caveman to fend off the bear. You don't have that masculine energy in your life that's willing to die fending off the bear. And so really these things are the same, aren't they? In this symbiotic relationship, this feeling that you're not enough and this feeling that you're not loved. And you can, going back to this notion that masculine energy needs constant validation, constant reassurance that it is enough. Honey, you're gonna fuck that bear up. Take 2 spears. You're gonna take down 2 bears. And that confidence is what masculine energy needs to scare off the bear without a confrontation at all. And masculine energy says, you're damn right. That bear doesn't stand a chance. And I hope the hair on the back of your neck stands up when I'm saying these things. I hope this speaks to a deep part of your soul that this is what we were created to do. We were created to meet each other's needs, to make each other feel safe and loved and validated and comfortable. And this polarity, this beautiful symbiosis, it's the greatest source of energy in your entire life. And we're going to talk about how you can use this not just with your intimate partner, but with every interaction in your entire life. But I hope you can see how caveman and cavewoman evolved to be beings of dominant masculine energy or feminine energy. And again, we both have huge measures of both, but there's typically one that's dominant. And typically men are dominant masculine energy and typically women are dominant feminine energy. We're going to take a step back here and cover a few more basics that are really important to inform this conversation. He doesn't care about anything else. That's exactly right. I'm sorry, I missed when Rachel sent that message 5 minutes ago. Yeah, that's right. The only thing caveman cares about is that he comes when cavewoman calls. Let's talk about this in a very real scenario. So my wife and I, so we don't have to kill a lot of lions, right? That's just not something that happens a lot in our day-to-day life. What is something that we need to do in our day-to-day life? What's a hard task that needs to be done? Stephanie, you've been really quiet. I bet you have something you want to say. What's something challenging?
I was gonna say make time for each other, like outside of the business and like the kids, like that one intimacy time.
Absolutely. So intimacy time, I think, is a direct outcome of the concepts I'm talking about here. It's an inevitable outcome. Now, you need to make space for it in your life, but when you have juice, when you have polarity in your relationship, when masculine energy is meeting the needs of feminine energy and vice versa, it makes time for itself in a hurry, I promise you. What's something, just a hard thing that a couple might need to confront, a hard task they might need to accomplish? I'll tell you what, I'll share an example from my personal life. So, so my wife and I, we recently bought a house and a personal home, and it was a big fancy mansion of a house. We're super happy about it, and it would be easy to describe this as like a hard undertaking. I think most couples, they struggle a little bit in like the home shopping process, and it's a big daunting task, and it's stressful and anxiety provoking and everything. And I'll tell you how we did it, because I think it's a model for success. So my wife and I were looking at homes all the time, and we're walking properties all the time, and just for funsies, we'll go look at nice houses every now and then. So we walk this house, and we're looking at it, and we're like, this is a nice house. This should be our house. And my wife said she wants it. Yeah, that's true. Elaine, you can chime in here if you disagree with my analysis. I think you're gonna agree with it. I think it's gonna leave you very charged after our meeting today. So she wants the house. And what I say is, well, what would be the worst thing that I could say to her based on our opening session with Mike and Amy? What's literally the worst thing I could possibly say?
Let's run the numbers on the house.
Yeah, let's run the numbers. Absolutely didn't say that. I learned my lesson with the snow tires, right? What's the best thing I can say? Let's see if y'all have been listening.
I want this house too, or
Why do you want this house?
I want it too. Why do you want it?
What do you love about this house?
I love it too. I want it too. Why? How? That's exactly what I did. And by the way, I love the house too, so it's easy. There's an easy one there. And what would be a way that my wife could go about procuring that house? I see it all the time when I work with clients as a real estate agent. What would be a way that my wife could go about procuring that house? This is a very practical question. There's no trick, and there's no right answer necessarily.
the mortgage.
With money.
That's right. She could go look, can we get a mortgage? Can we get money? She could go do those things, right? What do you think would happen if she did those things?
She would not feel like you were invested.
That's right. She would not feel heard and understood. She'd be putting on her masculine game face and charging forward against that tiger. How would that make me feel if my wife went out and was shopping for a mortgage and chasing after that tiger? How would that make me feel as a being of masculine power?
Well, I'm not needed here.
Might as well go make a fucking basket. Like what? She doesn't trust me to get it done. Now, she might be like a mortgage broker. She might be actually more qualified than me. But if she's just charging off on her own, it makes me feel useless. I was put on this earth to serve feminine energy, to die for feminine energy. And when feminine energy doesn't need me, well, Martin Luther King Jr. would say, I'm not fit to live. I might as well just go kill myself. And this is not just a spiritual question. This is a biochemical thing. When masculine energy is not needed, its serotonin falls off precipitously. And when your serotonin gets low enough, you become suicidal. You self-harm, you don't take care of yourself, you self-select out of the species. So we were made or evolved this way, but either way, this is a biological and a spiritual reality. What's a better thing that my wife could do to get the house that's going to charge us with polarity? My wife wants the house. I said, why do you want the house? I want the house because I love you. What am I prepared to do?
Wine and dine each other until you get it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There could be an element of persuasion, of intimacy, of connection. Now, if I think it's sincerely a bad idea, I'm going to tell her, but I'm going to do it from a place of empathy, right? I'm not going to analyze, I'm not going to run the numbers and say the numbers are bad. I'm going to say, listen, I think that this is a fantastic house. I want this house just as bad as you do. But gosh, it's like a whole pack of lions out there. And I don't even have that many spears. So I think this might be a really bad idea, but I really want it. What else can I do to serve you? And so my wife told me to go get it, to go get that house. And that's what I did. And we led with a low offer. And I advised my client that I did not think this offer would be accepted, and it was not. And when we lost it, we both said, man, you know what? We really screwed up. We should have brought 2 spears. And you know, I think we made a mistake. And so my wife said, I still want that house. And so I called the listing agent every single day, and I said, hey, yeah, I know you're under contract, but I want to buy that house. And he was like screening my calls and literally saying, why are you calling me? And I said, because I want to buy the house. He's like, yeah, we were under inspection. We're done with inspection. It's under contract. I don't understand why you're calling me. I said, because I want to buy the house. So I'm going to buy the house from you. So just let me know. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And one day I called and I bought the house. And you could say that it's coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence. I believe our path is guided. And you could say that maybe I sowed seeds of doubt in the offer they had accepted by casting this vision to the listing agent that I was going to buy the house, not the people who were already under contract. But I believe that the universe manifests reality to conform itself to our vision. I believe that is how the universe works. And that's exactly what happened. And in this situation, my wife, my cave woman, she said, I want you to go kill that pack of lions, because I'm afraid one day one of them might come over that ridge. And I said, gosh, that sounds like a tall order. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I've got some spears to sharpen. And then we had to get a mortgage, which was also really tough. I called 14 banks before I could get a loan. And ultimately, I got a fantastic loan. And you know what my wife did throughout that entire mortgage shopping process? What do you think she did to feed my energy?
Well, she was appreciating you or appreciating your effort.
That's right. Constant appreciation and validation. You're going to go get that mortgage. You're doing an amazing job. I really appreciate how hard you're working on this. Are there any needs you have right now that I'm not meeting? You've got this. And again, that masculine energy has that propensity for perhaps inappropriate confidence. That is its greatest strength and its greatest weakness at the same time. And my wife fanned the flame of that energy. And we went out and got an insane loan, 2.5%, rate. It should have been a jumbo, but basically we got conventional terms, a portfolio loan, an insanely good loan. We're going to do a cash out refi and get all of our cash out pretty soon. So it'll be like a 0 down loan, like just an unbelievably good loan. And every step of the way, my wife had perfect confidence in my ability to go kill that lion. What do you think would happen if my wife was like, hey, are you sure you're doing this the right way? Are you sure you've got the right spear? Maybe you should do a club. I don't know. Do you want me to go out there and hunt with you? You need a buddy. How do you think that would impact me?
Well, I'm not needed here.
I'm out.
She's questioning your manhood.
That's right. She's questioning the power of my masculine energy. And this is a situation where 2 + 2 = 100. Masculine energy is set on fire by feminine energy. Feminine energy is this amazing catalyst that creates this explosion of masculine power. And the reverse is true, by the way. My wife is out there hustling with our investors and raising millions of dollars for our investments. And I have perfect confidence in her ability to go round up every cave woman on the planet. And we're going to create the biggest, wealthiest village in the universe has ever imagined, because I have total confidence in her ability to do so, because she is so loved and connected. This is not something that masculine energy specializes in, right? We don't go gather people up very successfully. We're better at killing people than connecting with people. So it's important to understand the strengths and weaknesses of our energy. And the end outcome was we got this house that we never should have gotten for hundreds of thousands of dollars cheaper than we should have gotten it, with a loan we never should have gotten. And of course we did, because we cast a bold and a clear vision, and we did it with pure energy, with pure masculine and feminine energy. My wife told me to go out and get it. So of course I got it. What else would I do? That's what I was put on this earth to do. Again, I hope that the hairs on your neck stand up when you hear this, because this power, this is what can drive you to do anything. Financial freedom, it's a nice idea. Getting a raise at your job, being liked on social media, your dad giving you an attaboy. These are things that make us feel good. And these are the things that are kind of held up as the gold standard of what makes us excited and satisfied and fulfilled. We talk about how we want to have a house, right? We want to have a big house, but a big house can be an albatross. What do you think is more exciting to me? Having a big house that other people like envy and stuff, or whatever it is, whatever the reason is why people get a big house, or that I got a big house because my wife wanted it, and because I can provide anything when she wants it. I walk into that house with a spring in my step because I got it, and I can get anything she wants. It's a monument to my power, and it's a monument to her power. And I doubt she needs to check in with me as much when we're sleeping in that house, because she knows that I went and killed this lion. I can kill any lion. She doesn't have to check in with me when I'm weaving a basket. I hope this makes sense to y'all. A lot of this can feel really woo-woo, right? Like, just like, and it can feel like I'm espousing, I don't know what to call it. No matter what word I choose, there's so much connotation to it in modern Western society that it can be really negative. So you can say that like traditional values or something is what I'm talking about. Gosh, what kind of words pop into our mind when we say traditional values? Or I can talk about, traditional gender roles. Forget about gender. We're talking about masculine and feminine energy. We both are full of masculine and feminine energy, and we can tap into these sources at any given time. My wife is a lion herself. She is in possession of unlimited masculine power, and I pity the person that crosses her. But she doesn't have to live in that energy. It's probably not the energy that leaves her most energized, statistically speaking. Now, Mike and Amy, maybe Mike, you feel very comfortable in feminine energy, and maybe Amy, you feel very comfortable in masculine energy, because Mike, you stayed home with the kids, and Mike, and Amy, you went out and punched the clock. And there's no judgment to that. And by the way, it is impossible to influence people while we are judging them. You can feel it, you can smell it. I have zero judgment about either of you or your relationships. I see a beautiful relationship, and when we discover the places where we are most energized and how to feed that energy, nothing else matters. Mm-hmm. You have confidence and security and freedom that lets you shirk off the world, and everything just rolls off your back. You feel totally unstoppable, or that's an expression of masculine power, feeling totally unstoppable. Or I would say feminine energy, you feel totally at peace or totally secure in a beautiful state. So I hope you don't think that I'm, you could interpret this as saying that I am endorsing the subjugation of women or the patriarchy or something like that. Let me ask you this: in the situation that I just described, in the caveman, cavewoman situation, who's the person who wields more power?
The cavewoman.
Well, if they're doing it right, it's balanced.
There's certainly a balance there. I would argue that in a tribal culture, feminine energy probably wields more power. And I would argue or suspect, I wouldn't even argue, I would suspect that Western civilization has crushed feminine power for the last several thousand years out of fear. Who's dying in this scenario with the bear, the man or the woman?
Well, both.
Eventually.
If there's no polarity, if they become depolarized, there's a good chance they're both dying. And if there's good polarity and that fella is, when your body is coursing with adrenaline and serotonin and you rush that bear has serotonin, it has all the same receptors in their blood that we do, and they can smell your confidence. And there's a very good chance they're going to run away. So when there's good polarity and there's power in that relationship, it's a win-win. And when you depolarize, it's a lose-lose. But I would argue that feminine power, it probably supersedes masculine power in this situation. Masculine energy wants to lead, and feminine energy, I would say, wants to follow. But in order for masculine energy to lead, it has to be perfectly in tune with feminine energy. How does it feel when you're leading someone who doesn't want to be led? Does that make you feel good? Does that make you feel empowered?
Really frustrated.
Unbelievably frustrated. And when you've got a bonehead boss at work who is the most inept, out of touch leader you could imagine, how does that feel? You feel really safe and heard and understood, right?
No, really frustrating.
Yeah. So there's a perfect symbiosis here. And one person has to lead in order for there to be effective decision making, and that's how organizations work. And masculine energy likes to lead and feminine energy likes to follow. And yet I would argue that feminine energy probably possesses more power in that situation. I'm gonna get maybe a little too intimate here for a second. So we had some good friends who were Orthodox Jews, and we would go spend the Sabbath with them. And what an amazing, beautiful culture. And it's really easy to see the culture because they're very rule oriented. They have very specific rules. And there's very specific rules about when they're allowed to be physically intimate. And those rules are dictated by the wife's menstrual cycle. So the husband is like prohibited from physical intimacy during certain periods. Like who's driving that bus? Clearly, biologically, who's driving that bus? And the woman, yeah. And whether you like to admit it or not, or whether you're aware of it or not, women are sending out these pheromones at any given time. Modern birth control has really blunted a lot of those signals and created a lot of biochemical confusion in our water supply, so to speak. And this isn't like a crazy tinfoil hat theory. I mean, just hormonal birth control obstructs these proper signals. So don't take away from this that you have to get off hormonal birth control, by the way. I'm not a physician. My wife can talk to you about that. But the feminine energy is really the one driving a lot of these things. And I think it's something that masculine energy really fears. But when you are transparent about that, it creates an unlimited source of power when you both realize what your roles are and where you feel most comfortable and in your greatest seat of power, you can achieve anything. Here's a slide that I really like. So we've probably all heard of the 300, right? The Spartans, the greatest race of warriors who ever lived, where 300 men stood against 1,000,000. Can anyone tell me anything about Spartan culture? Is anyone here a Western civilization geek? How did Spartan civilization work? We look at this image here, and we see unbridled masculine power. You know, a phalanx of spears and shields, an impenetrable wall of steel and metal, and the phalanx operated on the premise that no one could lose their courage and run away, because there'd be a gap in the phalanx that an enemy could penetrate. But if everyone stood their ground and didn't lose their courage, it was an impenetrable wall of death that no one could stand against. And it's a concept, it's a military concept that dominated. The Spartans were unrivaled in their military power for centuries. When the Spartans went to war, they did not go to war, they were sent. Spartan women, Spartan wives would send their husbands to war. And they had an expression, you return with your shield or on it. Those were their parting words. If you returned on your shield, that meant you had fallen, you had died, and you came back with your shield, but on it, because the Spartan never lost his medal, never lost his shield. If you were to retreat, you have this extremely heavy, unwieldy shield, you'd probably drop it so you could run away faster. And if you return home without your shield, that meant you betrayed the phalanx and you died a coward. And you were prohibited from returning home without your shield. These men did not go to war. These men were sent. Masculine power is unleashed by feminine power. And the people, the couples, the tribes who understood it built amazing things. The Spartans, the greatest race of warriors the world's ever seen. Have you ever seen some of those like power couples where it just seems like they can do anything? I promise you, those people understand the power of polarity. And they probably are both in possession of ample reserves of masculine and feminine power. And they understand how to set each other on fire. I promise you that when Beyonce gets on stage, Jay-Z is telling her exactly how beautiful, how attractive she is to the whole world in every sense of the word, how everybody loves her and is connected with her, and she is going to go connect with everybody on stage tonight. And I promise you that when Jay-Z gets on the stage, Beyonce is telling him, you're going to crush it. These people are going to worship you on stage, and everybody respects you and wants to be you. And full of that energy, these people exude it in person and on film and in audio, and that's what connects with us, is that energy. And you could say this is a spiritual thing, but it's a biochemical thing. When you have an elongated spine and you speak confidently with a full diaphragm, these nonverbal cues send messages more powerful than any words you could ever say to every human that receives it, that you are in full possession of your power, and you are a person to be followed. You are a person to be loved. You're a person to be respected. I hope this makes sense to what I'm saying. I hope. Does anyone here think this is crazy? Feel free to speak up. I think this is a two-way discussion here. So we're going to talk about a concept called the 3 dimensions of relationship. And I hope this makes sense to everyone. This is something that I think is pretty incontrovertible. When I first heard this concept, I thought it was a little silly. And then, like, I think you can say half the things I've said today are kind of crazy, but I don't think you can argue with the 3 dimensions of relationship here. So there's 3 dimensions to relationship, or 3 levels to relationship. So level 1 is very egocentric. It's very all about me. Can anyone think of an example in their life when it's totally appropriate to have an egocentric relationship?
When you're an infant or a child.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a little hint there on the slide. In your adult life, since no one here is an infant, any example in your life when it's appropriate to have a level 1 relationship?
You're really sick, I guess.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's something that my wife and I struggle with a lot when we're ill. Go ahead.
I would say as a physician, like my role is that, you know, I am only there for, you want to mute?
Yeah, I'm muting it, so.
I am there to give exactly what the patient needs and nothing else. I'm not there to get anything out of that relationship. So it's egocentric from their perspective, and that's the way it should be.
That's a really beautiful paradigm. I don't know what level, I feel like that's a level 4 relationship or something like that. I don't know. We're going to circle back around that to us in a second. So let's say you're checking out at the grocery store. Does it make sense to have like a level 3 relationship with your checkout person, do you think? Probably not. It's a pretty big investment. You're really putting yourself out there. You're really spending a lot of energy to engage in these higher level relationships. So there's a lot of relationships in your life, perhaps the majority of your life, where it's valuable to have a level 1 relationship. And we as Minnesotans, this kind of rubs us the wrong way because we're all about equality in Minnesota. We have smaller gaps between the rich and the poor than any other state. And we think that you know, it's a tit for tat kind of thing. And equality is just like the apex of maturity or sophistication. But let's be really honest, it makes a ton of sense to have level 1 relationships with a lot of people probably most of the people in our life. And if we try and engage in level 2 relationships with everybody, we're not going to have the time or energy to create really deep, passionate relationships with the people who matter in our life. So it's okay to have a level 1 relationship. Probably not okay to have a level 1 relationship with someone you're in an intimate relationship with, though. And I'm sure you know some people who are in a level 1 relationship with an intimate partner. So level 2 relationships all about equality, tit for tat, you know, golden rule or silver rule or whatever. And I think this is probably most people's idea of like the apex of relationships. You know, if someone's in a marriage where, you know, their needs are kind of met, or they're able to meet their own needs and their spouse is able to meet their own needs, and they're not hurting each other and they're helping each other, you know, they're like really good roommates. Like, I think most people think that's like a pretty good relationship. You know, most marriages end in divorce. That's actually not an accurate statistic at all. If you track the long-term survival rate of marriages, there's actually just fewer marriages that are occurring today that are occurring later in life. So if you look at marriages versus divorces in the same year, there's divorces from marriages that happened in the 80s when we really had no clue what we were doing, and when we were getting married younger. So marriages actually have a better chance of survival today than just about any time since, you know, the early 1900s, when you probably only knew a few people in your whole life and divorce was not really a statistically favorable option for you. So I think a lot of people think of a level 2 relationship as like something to aspire to. And we as Minnesotans probably think of level 2 relationships as something to aspire to. I would say that, you know, it's a good thing, but it's probably not a great thing. And I would argue that equality is a really poor standard to even shoot for at all. I would argue that equity is a much more important standard to shoot for. So we all are different heights, right? We all agree that we're different heights, right? Some people are tall, some people are short. And we could say in an equality paradigm that everyone should have a chance to play in the NBA, right? And that would as follows: equality, equal opportunity. And yet we know inherently that's not accurate, but we feel guilty about that. We don't like talking about it. Or when we do, we talk about it in the ugliest way possible, about our frustration with the paradigm of equality. But it's really equity that we want. We have to recognize that we need different things. We have different needs, and we're going to have different outcomes, and that's okay. We are each beautiful souls who are equal in the eyes of our Creator, the universe, whatever you believe, but we are created differently. And to believe that we all have the same needs is to depolarize our entire society and create legions of people who feel unfulfilled and they don't know why. I wonder why people scroll on social media all day feeling unconnected and unfulfilled, having some serotonin and some dopamine, but no oxytocin, no intimate connection with anybody, because we're stuck in this equality paradigm. Does it make sense what I'm saying here? That we want everyone to have the best outcomes possible, but we need different things, and we're going to get different outcomes. I would liken this to the paradigm of compromise in negotiation. I teach a class in negotiation, and the idea of compromise, of like meeting each other in the middle, I think that's a lose-lose. I want a deal where we both get exactly what we want and more. You know, I'm a buyer's agent, I'm talking to the listing agent, and I say, I want a 30-day close, and they say we want a 60-day close, and so we compromise on a 45-day close. Neither of us get what we want. Instead, what I say is, my client is super flexible on closing date, but they need at least 30 days to get their financing in place. But they can close 120 days from now. In fact, that would be better for them. And the listing agent, they want a 120-day close too. They just think that that's irrational. It's going to compromise their negotiation position. And so they say 60 days, hoping that's like the longest interval they can possibly get. And we compromise at 45 days, a date neither of us want, because we just failed to communicate. We failed to acknowledge that we can have complementary needs. And we thought that compromise and that equality was the paragon of negotiation. But if we just understand that we have needs that are complementary, we can meet each other's needs. 120-day close sounds fantastic. That's a win-win deal. Even though we both walked into that negotiation Neither of us planning to present that number, but we led with our needs. That's called a black swan in negotiation, by the way. That's where our whole company comes from. So let's talk about a level 3 relationship. And I hope this is a concept that changes your life just a little bit. If you take nothing away from that feminine energy needs to be heard, understood, and needs security, and you can't tell feminine energy to let it go. I'm sorry, I actually forgot what the second thing was I said that I hope you take away from this talk. Let it be the concept of level 3 relationship. So I'm just going to read this straight from the slide. This is a spirit-centric relationship where you take total responsibility for the way the other person feels. You will not stop or give up for any reason until you meet your partner's needs. Your needs are my needs. You want snow tires, therefore I want snow tires. That lion, you're afraid of it, so I'm going to go kill the lion. What do you need?
Riley needs me,
Okay.
so I'm gonna go to him.
Okay.
Love you.
Love you. This is a concept that I think makes a lot of sense to feminine energy, and the language here is kind of geared towards masculine energy. I think you can probably sense that a little bit. This is a concept that seems a little bit crazy to masculine energy. Well, your needs are your needs, and my needs are my needs. This is a very Western idea as well, isn't it? In Western society, we're told we need to have a thick skin, and we pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. Whereas in Eastern civilization or in European culture, it's more of a collectivistic kind of consciousness, realizing that when my neighbor's house gets better, when their house appreciates, my house appreciates too. When my neighbor gets what they want, there's a good chance I'm going to get what I want too. We have a stake in each other, but Americans, we really don't get this concept. If someone hurts your feelings, that's your fault that you didn't have a thick enough skin to put them in their place or to hurt them back. Whereas in Eastern mindset, if you hurt someone's feelings, you're the one who loses face because you lacked the sensitivity, the empathy to understand their needs, and that's shameful if you hurt someone else's feelings, and it's now incumbent upon you to right the wrong versus to return the wrong in American culture. And from my phrasing here, I'm sure you can tell that I wonder just how wise our culture is in this regard. I think they might have something a little bit backwards there. I promise you that if you sincerely make the needs of your partner your needs, you will experience a level of intimacy, a level of connection that you could not dream is possible. It's a beautiful thing. And when you see partners who are in intimate symbiosis, they radiate this energy that you can almost see them glowing. There's a collapse of ego boundaries, but not in like an unhealthy way. You know that whatever animal comes over that horizon, it's going to be taken care of if you're dominant feminine energy, and you know that your partner has your full confidence. They worship you. They know that you are the man and you can handle anything, and you're just walking on air 24 hours a day. It's an amazing energy, and it only comes about when you have a level 3 relationship between masculine and feminine energy. This is the most powerful source of energy you can tap into in the whole world. Anyone have any thoughts on this? I know this is does this sound silly to anyone? It's kind of the Mike and Amy show, so I guess we can.
Well, I think it doesn't sound silly at all. I think it makes so much sense. Looking back over we've been together for 23 years, and looking back over the course of our relationship, I think it makes so many things kind of fall into place when I hear you talk about this. Because like you said, I mean, I'm a physician too, and so when I have to go to work and be the leader, and I have to use masculine energy, like I have to. That's how, I mean, I use my feminine energy too, but I have to be a leader. I'm teaching residents, I'm teaching medical students, I'm running an operating room, so I have to do my thing. And when I come home though, I don't want that anymore. Like I want to be feminine energy dominant, and I want him to be the masculine energy, because I'm exhausted from using masculine energy all day. And when you said that, it was just like, oh my gosh. And I realized too that you said, how does it feel to be led by someone who doesn't want to lead, or vice versa. And I think that I am probably not turning my masculine energy off enough at home. I probably need to be more affirming for Mike and let him be the caveman in this particular cave. And I see that as like something I need to work on. So I think it makes perfect sense.
I think that's a really beautiful share. I really appreciate that. And you're not alone. I feel like half
Third
of
one.
the, go ahead, Deb. Deb, were you trying to share something? I'm going to mute you. I think that's a really beautiful share, Amy. And I think like half of the couples in the United States right now are in that exact same situation, especially if you're working a job that's dominated by a masculine culture. And medicine is absolutely that way. When my wife was in her anatomy class, there was the anatomy and then the female alternative. So like the default genitalia was male, and then there's the female alternative, like in the textbooks that they're teaching brand new medical students, like somewhat strong masculine energy, you could say. And the way medicine is taught, the career track, everything, there's lots of female physicians, but there is almost no feminine energy in medicine. And it's creating a lot of backlash against Western medicine. It's very thinking and not feeling. Whether or not your doctor loves you will probably have a somewhat significant impact on how good your medical outcomes are. And yet that's something we feel very uncomfortable talking about.
Hey, Ned,
Yes.
I'd like to add something to that. Along with what's going on today in society with equality, you know, the battle for equality between men and women, I think sometimes we're taking the wrong path. We're forgetting that yes, there's equality, but there still needs to be a relationship within that equality, and people need to be respected for their masculinity and their femininity. And I think they think equality means that women are supposed to be masculine. I think it's kind of giving that message, and unfortunately that's not what makes us as women feel good. That doesn't feed us.
That's right. And Deb, you are a being of extraordinary power. I remember the first time I met you, and I think we hugged and we cried and we connected in a really profound way, and we did it in minutes and we did it effortlessly. I think that we think of. Were you gonna say something?
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think that's a superpower. I think that's a superpower that feminine energy enjoys, and it's something the masculine energy is a little bit afraid of and doesn't understand. And certainly in the United States, we don't understand it.
Yeah, I agree.
And it leaves us unfulfilled.
100%. And I think we need to get back to the big biblical sense of marriage and partnership, in the sense that, you know, that book of women want love, men want respect, love and respect.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of a really profound statement, you know, and it speaks volumes. If you really dig into it, it's exactly what you're saying here, and how we learn to communicate with each other with love and with respect.
Absolutely. Why is respect so vital for men? Going back to our caveman analogy here. So let's say you're in a tribe. Why is respect so vital for men?
Lack of support. Without support, you're barefoot.
That's right. Because it's not just caveman and cavewoman, right? It's a tribe. And so, Mike, when you and I connect, I get a hit of oxytocin. I get some bonding hormone with you. Why is my body made to reward that connection?
So that you can work together.
That's right. Because one caveman against a lion, caveman's probably going to die. He's happy to die. That's what he was put on this earth to do, but he doesn't want to. And if he can get together some other cavemen, well, maybe no cavemen need to die, and we're going to eat some lion for dinner, and we won't have to hunt for a week. So everything that I do as a man, as a being of strong masculine energy, is seeking connection with other beings of strong masculine energy, and respect is a code word for connection. In Japan, they have a greeting that I wish I could get it to be more popular in the United States. I would say, "Hello, Mike. My name is Nick. I hope that in the future, you and I can rely upon one another." Let's very, very explicitly recognize that we are in this together. And then there's a countersign. Yes, we can rely upon one another. We acknowledge that we are in this together. If you don't respect a man, what does that mean?
Lack of trust, lack of feeling safe, lack of all the things that us as women need.
That's right. So I'm putting together a band of brothers here to go protect our village from the lion. And I don't really respect Mike. I'm afraid that we're going to charge after that lion and he's going to run away. And I'm going to be food, and he's going to betray me when it matters most, when our life is on the line. And when it comes time to hand out the spoils from the kill of the lion, who is not going to eat?
The
Mike.
guy that ran away.
And his family. Without respect, you are dead. You are worse than worthless to your tribe. You are a liability. You are a mouth to feed and someone you cannot rely upon when it matters most. And so we think of respect as being this very abstract concept. It is not abstract. Can I rely upon you when it matters most? That is the essence of respect. And when we speak frankly about these concepts, I think they make sense. It's only when we put them into modern abstractions about you didn't like my post on social media that these concepts get fuzzy. No, we are going shoulder to shoulder against the lion, and I need to know I can rely upon you. And that's all there is to it. It's not any more complicated than that. It's just our modern civilization that makes things kind of weird. So Amy, you said you need to work on coming out of your masculine energy when you come home from work.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I feel like I don't really want to be in it anymore, but it's kind of hard to turn it off. I spend a lot of my day like putting both forward because I work with, I work with patients who need to be comforted and need to know that their doctor loves them. And so it's easy for me to show that, like, that's the easy part. It's the, like, having to tap into that masculine energy all day long that I feel exhausts me. So when I come home, though, I feel like I have a difficult time transitioning out of leading everything. And that whole thing where I have to rely, like, if I need something done, I have to make sure it's done myself, like, and so when I come home, I have a harder time, I guess, I don't know if it's the right word, but like trusting that I don't have to run everything here at home too. I can back off of that strong leading, pushing sort of thing.
I think if I could interject there, I think just because I've been around a lot of medical professionals and I'm a strong woman too. And I think sometimes we're carrying our masculinity from work to home with the confidence that we know if we do it, it's going to get done right. And we forget that it's not necessarily about our people trusting us. It's about us trusting others.
This is beautiful. It's only by talking about these things that we can improve these things. And again, I think like half the couples in the United States are in this exact situation. And there's a spiritual component here, but there's a biological component as well. When I get into my peak state, I am a being of pure masculine energy, and I literally beat my chest and I shout and I get pumped up. And when my wife gets into a peak state and she is going to go talk to an investor and convince them to invest $1 million with us, she meditates and puts on some music and is in a place of perfect clarity, knowing that anybody that she interacts with is going to be drawn to her, just raw magnetism. And my blood is coursing with testosterone and her blood is coursing with estrogen. And that's just the biological reality of the situation. And if she was trying to work herself up into a peak state to hard close this investor, it could work, but it's probably not going to work very well, and it's going to exhaust her. And when she comes home, she's still going to be just coursing with testosterone, and it takes hours for those levels to fall off. And so it's not like a personal failing of yours that you need to put a game face on, and you have a hard time taking that off when you get home. And physiology is a very real thing here. So physiological indicators of your emotional state, like these are very real things. So when I would have a bad day at work, I used to have a sports car. I used to have several sports cars, a motorcycle. I would take the long way home, and I'd be doing, like a $1.30 down the winding road on the way home. And I felt amazing and exhilarated when I got home, and I could leave my work at work and be ready for my family. And if I had like a really tough meeting or something first thing in the morning, I might take the long way into the office as well. And that's how I got into a peak state. And Amy, when you're driving home, that's probably not something that's going to help you get into your place of centeredness. There's probably a different routine that you might want to explore. And maybe you're listening to some sort of meditation. Don't fall asleep at the wheel, but maybe you're doing something, and maybe you just need a few minutes when you get home, or maybe you stop a block away from home and you have some affirmations. I am a being of unlimited feminine energy. I'm totally connected and loved and trusted and provided for. And I want for nothing. Anything I ask for will be provided for me.
That's true.
And Mike, this is your job. You need to lead. So it takes two people here to make this happen. And my wife is a physician, so I totally empathize with your situation. I think more than most men do. When we relocated to Rochester, I was fired unexpectedly from my job, which was the income we were depending on to pay our mortgage for the home we had already bought in Rochester. And I had this, this experience as like a tech startup guy. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this skill set in Rochester, Minnesota? How on earth could I ever provide for my family? And I was literally just crying the entire time I was driving the moving truck to Minnesota. And there was some dark days. I feel like I know what PTSD is. I used to think it was just like something you had to get over or whatever. It's a very real thing. I relived that day I got fired, just recurrent nightmares continuously. Anytime I closed my eyes, I was like afraid to sleep because my identity was challenged. And I certainly didn't have any polarity. My wife is now the breadwinner. And am I even going to be able to find a job? Now, I believe my path is guided, and the most perfect job that I ever could have imagined that they'd been trying to fill for a year. Mayo was trying to do a tech startup, and they're like, well, how the heck are we going to find someone with tech startup experience in Rochester to run this thing? And our paths beautifully merged at the exact moment they were supposed to. My path is guided. But for a long time there, I was without identity and certainly without polarity. And it can be really hard to get yourself psyched up and into a peak state when you're living in that emotional place. I'm not saying you're living in that emotional place. I'm just saying that I understand what it's like to be married to a physician, to be at home, taking care of the kids, and how hard it can be to have that energy when you're in that situation. It's an uphill battle. And we as humans are very good at generalizing, at saying something that applies in this context applies in this context, but we're also very good at anchoring. Why is it that a beer ad doesn't sell you beer? It just has, women in bikinis and monster trucks and stuff, because that's what, modern men do, right? They drink beer and watch sports. Yeah, absolutely. Because advertisers know that these are things that are like cultural values we aspire to or something. And if they just pitch you the can of beer next to the babes in bikinis, you'll associate the two and you'll buy the can of beer. It has nothing to do with the beer at all. In fact, I don't understand how getting a beer belly and being incapacitated so you can't fend off the lion makes you a stronger man. That's just not something I can wrap my brain around. But that is what our modern culture proposes. So I would recommend to you that you develop a new anchor. And I hope I'm not getting too intimate with you all here, I do have a bachelor's degree in ministry, by the way, so I've taken classes on couples counseling, anything, and all that stuff. But I would recommend you develop a new anchor. So when Amy comes home from work, what are the cues that let her check her game face at the door? And what can you do to help her fall into that energy? And what can you do to get your own masculine energy going? What's the thing that sets you on fire? And how can you make that moment happen when that transition between work and home occurs? Because that's a pretty hard transition that sounds like it's happening on a day-to-day basis there. And that anchor could be anything. I mentioned, Amy, you could, stop a block away from home and listen to some meditations and do some affirmations, right when you get home, right before you get home. And Mike, you can do the exact same kind of things. And you can engage in playful exercises. So maybe you have an evening where, Amy, you are not allowed to do anything for yourself. And you have to ask Mike to do everything for you. And you get to be queen for a day. And the good news is, Mike, you get to be a king for a day, because you get to tell her everything that you need as well. And I promise you, if you lean into that exercise, you are going to have a fantastic evening. And Mike, masculine energy has to lead. This is not something that feminine energy can truly drive, and feminine energy will respond to leadership in an instant. I promise you, if feminine energy experiences leadership, it feels at home, at place, safe, secure, perfect trust, perfect communication, perfect connection, and masculine energy feels set on fire. So without being overly prescriptive, hire a babysitter, set a date night, maybe a date night once a month, once a week, but as soon as you get off this call, do not leave your moment of decision without making plans. And Mike, you are the boss. You have to be the boss, or there will not be polarity. So you say what Amy's going to wear, you say where you're going to eat and what you're going to do, and her job is to do whatever you say. And if that doesn't get you excited, then we might have a few other things to talk about.
That sounds fantastic. No, that sounds amazing. I would love to have a date night like that. Not to have to plan everything myself would be fantastic.
It's not the girl's job to ask the guy out to the dance. That's not how it works. We have this mystery of equality and feminine energy, by the way. Mike, let's say Amy's a vegan. You're going to go to the steakhouse, right? When you plan the date? Yeah.
That would not be thoughtful.
Yeah, if you're a strong masculine leader that is in a level 3 relationship, a 3-dimensional relationship with your partner, what are you probably going to do?
Find a nice vegan restaurant.
Find a nice vegan restaurant. And she's going to feel a little uncomfortable in this outfit you curated for her. And maybe some garments are optional in that outfit, and she's not going to know where she's going, and she's not going to trust you, right? She's going to feel uncomfortable, and that should make you feel uncomfortable. And you're going to roll up to that vegan restaurant, her favorite restaurant, and suddenly she's going to just melt into your arms and say, oh, I see how this works. And you're going to have the perfect meal. You're going to have a strolling singer that you hired come by and sing her favorite song, and she's going to know that you listen to her and you know her needs, and her needs will be met. And in this explicitly romantic context, everything else will fall into line. But Mike, if you don't plan the date, if you don't lead, she cannot follow. And unfortunately, we're a generation of men that have been told it's maybe not appropriate for us to lead, that we are being jerks, or pick your other pejorative there, by leading. But that's where we feel at home. That's what we want more than anything. And feminine energy wants to feel led. Does that make sense? Does that sound like a fun time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. I'm very excited to hear that. If that doesn't sound like a fun time, then yeah, we have some more things to talk about. But depolarization in relationship, people who are dominant feminine energy, who are told that they have to be dominant masculine energy in order to be successful, it is a curse upon the relationships of our generation. I don't know. There's Aaron. Ooh, let's talk about Aaron Duckworth. Oh, let's let her connect to audio. All right, Erin, are you with us?
I am, guys. Hi, I'm on my way to my next appointment, so I'm not going to be with you for very long, but I've always wanted to attend this class, Nick, and I keep missing it. Are we recording this today?
We are, so you can enjoy the recording.
Okay.
Make sure Steve hears it. So it's been the Mike and Amy show today. They've been our featured couple throughout our polarity class today. So we just plotted out how Amy is going to be doing whatever Mike says here sometime in the next week, as Mike plans out the perfect date, and he's going to tell her what to wear and what they're going to do, and she has to do everything that he says, and they are going to have a hell of a night.
I love it. I am definitely going back and finding this recording and making Mr. Duckworth sit down and listen to it.
I thought you might appreciate that.
Based upon that alone.
I thought you might say something with that, Erin. Erin, Amy, you could learn so much from Erin. She is one of the most powerful women I've ever met. When I first sat down with Erin, I felt instantly connected and loved and respected. I can't spend 30 seconds with the woman without her telling me how awesome I am, which as a person of dominant masculine energy is like oxygen to me. And I feel just surrounded by love and appreciation and adoration, and I just want to be around her as much as I can. That's just this pull that I feel to her. And she is the top person in her role in our entire region in Keller Williams. She has exuded unreal leadership of this franchise with raw feminine power. How do you think that makes her husband feel?
I would
Erin,
think
you can talk to, I don't know.
on top of the world. Mikey really got a good catch.
I think
Well,
so.
you guys, Nick, you're too sweet, and I feel totally unworthy of the adoration, but I want you to know that I appreciate it. And it's agents like you and a lot of our agents that we're in business with that make that part of my job easy. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Do you think her husband might feel a little intimidated by her raw feminine power? It's scary stuff how good she is. I know I feel a little intimidated by Erin when I'm around her. And masculine energy, it has to step up. Going back to our slide here, we talked about how masculine energy wants freedom and feminine energy wants to be owned. Now that's a really scary thing for us Americans to talk about, right? Why would anyone want to be owned? That makes no sense at all, right?
This is Elaine. I will say after I have made like 1,000,005 decisions, including 13 rounds of do you want macaroni and cheese or Cheerios for dinner, I just want somebody else to make the decisions.
That's right.
I love you, Elaine.
Thank you. I love you too.
So at the risk of being overly intimate here, so when my wife and I first got married, so she's familiar with the biblical parable of piercing your ear. So in the ancient world, a slave that had a master that they adored and thought, man, I'm set for life, I don't want to go anywhere. They would pierce their ear on the doorpost of that master, and they would be bound to that master for life. And keep in mind, modern North American slavery, very different from slavery in the ancient world. So just rid yourself of that concept for a second. And my wife pierced her ears on our wedding day. I gave her some beautiful earrings as a wedding gift. My wife is an unbelievably powerful woman, but she feels very at peace, very centered when I am leading, and she feels totally possessed by me. And masculine energy wants to possess. And when you are challenged by unbelievably powerful feminine energy, it can be tough to step up. It can be intimidating. It can be scary, especially for modern man boys who haven't been taught how to do it in a productive way, in a loving way, in a powerful way. And Mike, I can tell you that your wife is an unbelievably powerful woman. And if you step up and take possession of her when she wants to be possessed, you're going to set her on fire. And you will be filled. Look at that look on her face. That was a hell of a look, right? I don't know what was just on her face, but I liked it. I hope you like it too, Mike. And Steve, when you're listening to this recording, you need to, and I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong, Steve, by the way. I'm just saying that you have got a lion. You landed the most amazing catch you probably could, and you need to step up and take full possession of your wife and make her feel totally heard and understood and connected and loved and adored and led. And you are going to set your whole life on fire. Not that you're leading a bad life, by the way. I just, you chimed in at this the perfect moment there, Erin. So we've done
I'm glad I did. Sorry.
We've done a lot of couples therapy here with Mike and Amy. By the way, therapy, that's like a pejorative, right? You only talk to a therapist when you're sick, when things are bad, right? Yeah. Coaching, that's a positive connotation. We've done some couples coaching. I pay a fantastic sum of money for coaching every year. So does my wife, and we are better for it. We wouldn't pay so much money for it if we weren't better for it. So I hope that we all understand that we're all here to get, just because you're doing coaching doesn't mean that you're in a bad place. We can all get to a better place. So let's talk about something a little more interesting, a little more not about marriage, because polarity is a concept that applies to our most intimate relationships a lot, but it applies to any intimate relationship in our life. Why is this such an applicable topic for real estate agents? Anyone? Erin, why do you think it's such an applicable topic for real estate agents? Sorry.
Nick, I'm on the road, so I lost you for a minute. What was the question? How does what?
Why is this such an applicable topic for real estate agents? Why are we talking about intimate relationships? This should be a topic for like a couples therapist or something, not for real estate, right?
Well, I mean, it applies on so many different levels. Number one being that we are in a relationship-based business. So, the more intimate we understand one another in male and female behavior, the better our chances are to be able to connect with people with where they're at.
That's right.
In a genuine way.
That's right. Yeah, we have the privilege to intersect people at some of the most vulnerable junctures in their life. A new baby, a new relationship, an empty nest, a passing away. And your relationship with your real estate agent is going to be one of the most intimate relationships you have in your whole life. It's only there for a season, but it's a profoundly intimate relationship. There's some secrets you share with your realtor you wouldn't share with anybody else because they coach you through these junctures in your life. Do you think it might be valuable to have some polarity with your real estate agent? We're told that we should keep a professional distance. I would argue that if you don't love the people that you serve, you're not truly serving them. And I would argue that if you want to be a fiduciary, someone who truly puts the needs of someone ahead of your own, you are in a level 3 relationship with them, a 3-dimensional relationship. These are concepts that apply to any intimate relationship in your life. I would argue there are probably more people out there who have a level 3 relationship with their pet than with their spouse. You're always thinking really critically about Sparky's needs and probably putting their needs ahead of yours more than you're putting the needs of your spouse ahead of yours, because your spouse, they can provide for themselves and Sparky can't. And Sparky showers you in unbridled love and respect. Dog is truly man's best friend because they provide what both masculine and feminine energy needs. And yet, like, we can meet these needs for each other much better than a pet can. So as real estate agents, this is really critical. I want to run through one scenario and how this can change your whole paradigm for communication, for sharing others, for sharing with others, and for caring with others.
Hey, Nick, can I add something real quick?
Yeah.
I think one thing that falls into play there is the fear. When somebody comes in a relationship with us, the fear of being intimidated, the fear of not fulfilling their needs, the fear of not doing it how they want to do it. And I think that has a lot to do with marriage. I think that has a lot to do with our real estate relationships. And you have to eliminate that fear by believing in yourself and understanding that if there is a disagreement, if there is something that you don't see eye to eye on, it's growth. It's not dislike, it's growth, and appreciating that relationship for the growth that it's allowing you.
Absolutely. I hope that we all feel a little uncomfortable today, and it takes pain in order to grow. And once you see that life is full of pain to create growth, suddenly the pain isn't so bad anymore. It's only when we live in this fantasy land that life should be free of pain, free of discomfort, that life is hard. That's a very kind of Eastern philosophy, but I think it's completely true. And so when we embrace that discomfort and that growth, I think everything Deb said was spot on there. So let's talk about for just a second how this is a superpower with everyone that you communicate with. We're going to run through a scenario here as a role play as an agent, and then we're gonna call it a day. So we'll go a few minutes long. So I'm a real estate agent, and I'm representing a buyer. Okay, and who drives the buyer process? Is it the husband or the wife?
Well, the wife is sort of the one driving it if she's the one saying, go get it.
That's right. The wife is in the driver's seat here. Let me ask you this. Who drives the selling process? Who drives the listing process usually?
I guess, I don't know. Trying to empty, then it would be masculine.
Statistically speaking, it's almost always the husband that's driving the listing process, that's driving the selling process. It's almost always the wife that's driving the buying process. That's just, as any agent will tell you, that's their colloquial kind of experience, their anecdotal experience. And this is why. And once you have an understanding of polarity of masculine and feminine energy, it makes perfect sense. Feminine energy likes to gather. I can see my stuff on these shelves and my dishes in these cupboards, and masculine energy is trying to empty, trying to be rid, to cut away. And so men are almost always driving, masculine energy is always driving the sales process. So we're talking to the buyers, and the wife is telling the husband to go get it because they are in a really fantastic high polarity relationship. So an agent who is naive to the power of polarity, who are they selling the house to?
The husband.
Right, because he's the one doing the talking, but he's not the one doing the deciding. And you need to go 3 layers deep. You need to, okay, you love this house. Why do you love this house? And the husband's going to look at the woman if he's in a good relationship, and then he's going to look at me, and he's going to do the talking. He's going to say, we really love the lot, and we really love the kitchen, and we really love this location. Oh, and by the way, we really love the garage. He just tacked that one on the end there. And a naive agent is going to try to sell that house to the husband. And you, as the agent, you say, okay, why do you love this location? And the husband's going to look at the wife and then look at the agent and say, we really like that it's close to this school and this nursery, this daycare, and it's really close to this grocery store. And give a curiously feminine answer to that question because he's so in connection with his spouse and understands her needs. And her heart's melting over here a little bit that he understands her needs so well and can articulate her needs on her behalf. And she's super excited about that and just like, yeah, we're going to remember that later tonight. And then you go 3 layers deep and you say, oh, so you like that grocery store and that nursery and that school? So, without, at the risk of being too intimate here, do you have any news you want to share with me? And that's when the woman bursts out and says, I'm pregnant. And we're just so excited about this nursery and this school. It's like the top rated school, and feminine energy likes to tell long stories. So 15 minutes later, you understand everything you need to know about this couple, and you get to show them one more house because you are a rock star agent and you know exactly what their needs are. And the man, does he feel like disempowered or disenfranchised by that interaction?
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, no, he did his job, and when it was appropriate, he had exhausted his amount of information here. but it's going to come back around, and you have to be prepared for that. So you're walking through this house, and this is the second house you've shown because you know all their needs because you went 3 layers deep and you understand polarity. So you know it's the house. And the husband is walking through the garage, his space, and he's like, yeah, these roof rafters, these are running the wrong direction. What is he trying to communicate? Now, we don't know if these roof rafters are running the wrong direction. You as an agent look like any other roof rafters you've seen. So what do you think the husband's trying to communicate by saying that?
What he knows.
He might be putting himself in the house, picturing what he'll be doing once he's there.
That's right. And he's trying to have a say, right? Because up until now, his wife has been driving everything, and he's leading, but he hasn't had a say. And at some point, there comes a line in the sand where he says, listen, I have a veto. I get to decide. And he has to be given the opportunity to lead. So what's like the worst thing you could say to the husband in this particular situation?
You're wrong. There's nothing wrong with the roof raft.
You're wrong. That's right. I don't respect you. I don't respect your ideas. Tell you what, let's do an analysis on them. Let's get an inspector out here who knows more than you and prove you wrong. You're never hearing from those clients again. Doesn't matter how much you connected with Mrs. Buyer, Mr. Buyer will never speak with you again. You could be really passive and a weak agent, and you could say, okay, I've walked a lot of houses, and these rafters look like kind of the same as every other rafter I've seen. I'm not sure what you're getting at. When you're weak in a relationship with someone, you give away all your power. You cede your leadership in that relationship, and you lose control. And that man's going to pick up on it that you don't know what to do next and say, okay, we're not buying this house. The decision's been made. I'm the decider. And you may never find that perfect house again. You failed to serve them. What's something you could tell the husband to diffuse the situation? What did we do with the wife?
What did you just ask him why?
Just ask him why. Hey, why do you feel that way? Why is always the question to ask. It's always the question to ask. Well, and there could be a couple different answers here, right? And you wouldn't know unless you ask. So, well, I am actually a licensed residential property inspector. I've inspected 10,000 homes, and I can tell that these have been done wrong. This is DIY work. The permits weren't pulled. Whew! I'm really glad that I asked why instead of just saying, no, this looks fine. Or maybe he says, I don't know. It just doesn't look right to me. What else do you need to ask him? We didn't get a chance to talk about this very much, but there are 3 things that shut down masculine energy: feeling criticized, feeling closed, and feeling controlled. So there's 3 U's for feminine energy that shut down feminine energy: feeling unheard, not understood, and feeling unsafe. It just zaps feminine energy. And there's 3 things that zap masculine energy. That's feeling criticized, feeling closed, and feeling controlled. So if we want to play to the opposite of these 3 things, what's something we could tell that man in that situation? What could we do to make him feel not controlled? He feels potentially very controlled in this situation. He's going out and getting the house, but he hasn't really had a say. What can we do to give this man freedom? Freedom and respect our oxygen to masculine energy. Anyone else? Welcome to chime in here. I hope I'm challenging you in this moment to think critically about how you interface with everyone in your life. In every communication you have with anyone, the only thing you're doing is meeting needs. Whether that need is to be validated, to feel heard and understood, to feel connected, to feel free. You might be talking about buying a car, buying a house, or what school to send your kids to, or what to do with some employee that's not pulling their weight. In all of our day-to-day conversations, you need to realize we are meeting needs. So what need can we meet when we respond to this individual? Elaine, Deb? I would argue that the best thing we could say, insinuate that he is correct somehow while being careful not to break the law. Oh, you're breaking up there, Deb.
No, I was agreeing with you. It's a tough situation because you want him to know that you love and respect him, but at the same time, just you don't always agree.
I'm gonna be really brutal here. Rachel and Deb, in my opinion, that is the worst thing you could possibly do. Truly the worst. Masculine energy is not dumb. I think it's like a myth that masculine energy just needs like, you can't coach a man. You can't insinuate something. You can't try to protect their ego. You can confront them, and masculine energy respects confrontation, or you can trust masculine energy. You can say, listen, we need some people before we go out and fight that lion. Who can we get? You go get them. Or you can say, I trust you, you've got this, do what you need to do. But the worst thing you can do to masculine energy is to say, yep, I think you've got this. I think you might be correct somehow, but I've got a little bit of coaching for you. I don't think you're actually correct here. Does that make sense? So you can tell.
I don't think there's ever a suggestion. I don't think there's a I think. He has to know that you completely trust him. But at the same time, I don't think you can respect each other without being fully honest.
Well, that's what I'm saying is you have to be really, I think, brutally honest with masculine energy. Yeah. And
Right.
I'm talking to both you and Rachel at the same time, so there's a little bit of mixing of messages there. So I would say the best thing you can do is lead with trust, and you can tell him, okay, what do you want to do? The rafters are running the wrong way. Now, internally, I know that these rafters look about the same as every other rafter I've seen. What do you want to do? And I promise you that guy, he's going to be, psyched up for a confrontation, and he's got his chest puffed out and his shoulders are high, and he'll go, thank you. That's all I wanted anyone to say in this whole process is, what do I want to do? I am so excited to go get this house for my wife, but at no point in this process did anyone ask what it is that I want to do. I really appreciate you asking. And, this is a problem, but, it's probably okay. Can we get an inspection? Do you think it's a good idea to get? At that point, he's now leading, and he can have full confidence in his ability to have a say while also soliciting feedback. So you can't coach masculine energy, but masculine energy, when given permission to lead, will often seek advice. Now let's flip the script here. So we're working with feminine energy, and let's say you're touring this house, and you know that this is the perfect house because you had this perfect connection with this woman in your interview where you went 3 layers deep, and you're walking the house. Caveman loves the home. Cave woman, it's clearly checking all the boxes, but it's not lighting her up. Now, you're pretty sure that you could hard close them, that you could convince them to buy the house, even though they clearly have some significant reservations there. And as an agent, I think you need to ask yourself, are you really serving your client by convincing them to do something? Because I promise you, every day they're going to come home to that house and they're going to wonder, did we get talked into something we didn't actually want? They're not going to be on fire when they step foot into that house the way I'm on fire when I step foot into my new home. So let's say you're the agent, you're the buyer's agent here, and seems like there's some bad energy here. What do you do? What can you do to speak to feminine energy? So the 3 U's, wherever my 3 U's are here, there it is. Feeling unseen, unheard, or unsafe. These are the 3 things that shut down feminine energy. So what can you do to speak to feminine energy when you sense some reservation here? And she wants her man to say something, but maybe he's not picking up on it. What can you as the agent do? Deb, what do you think?
So do you want me to talk to him or do you want me to talk to her? Because it would be two different conversations. She's my buyer. So if we're in a buying situation, I'm going to talk to her, and I'm going to create a conversation with her and find out what her needs are. You know, what are you really looking for, and making sure I fully understand what she needs and what she wants, because ultimately it's her, and he's going to give her what she wants, you know.
Right.
And that conversation is going to happen between them at a later time, but I really need to key in on her and find out what her needs and wants and desires are.
That's exactly right. You nailed it, Deb. So, caveman over there isn't quite picking up what's going on, and you're going to need to talk to Cave Woman here and make sure that she feels heard and understood. And you talk to her and you say, it just seems like you just feel a little weird about this house. I feel like it's checking all the boxes. Just state your observations clearly. And for some reason, it's just not letting you. Is there something you don't like about the house? Please tell me. I believe in complete transparency, and I don't want to sell you a house that you don't absolutely love. And she might say, this is going to sound crazy, but it's just my feminine intuition here. I just feel a little weird in this house because the facade of this house looks just like the facade of a house that was broken into on my block when I was a little girl. And I know that this house isn't that house, but somehow I just have this weird connection in my mind, and it just feels a little bit weird to me. And going back to earlier in our talk here, how often is feminine intuition correct?
All the time. We're always correct.
Enough, I'm not messing with it.
It's disturbingly often. And you're like, okay, well, I mean, this is a really safe neighborhood, but let's go check the crime reports and whatever, and maybe, I don't know. And you pull up the crime reports, and holy buckets, there was a meth house bust at this house 2 years ago. This is a meth house, and it was on the Post Bulletin. And you pull up the article from the Post Bulletin that has a picture of the facade of the house, of that exact house. And she just happens to connect it with the similar house in her peripherally aware, multitasking feminine consciousness, that this is an ugly, unsafe looking house. And she just can't rid herself of it, but it's stuck in her unconscious. And there's no methamphetamine production disclosure on this particular home, and it's a whole deal. Or maybe you check the crime reports and there's never been any crime. You go door knock the neighbors, everything's fine. And you say, I've done all the due diligence here, and I think it's just a coincidence that this home happens to look identical to this home that you associate with being unsafe as a child. But you know what? I hear you. I understand you. I would never want to live in a house that makes me feel a little unsafe. Do we want to look at something else? No. That is a little irrational. What else could we do? Could we change the shutters on the house? They have this really distinctive, bright teal color that just makes me immediately think of that house. What if we repaint the shutters, put on red shutters on the house? All of a sudden it looks totally different. And that nagging feeling that would have plagued this family every time they set foot in the house is gone, and it costs almost nothing. And all you had to do is ask a few questions. All you had to do is meet their needs. Now, does painting shutters that don't need to be painted have anything in the logical world to do with buying a house? No. But does it meet their needs? Absolutely. We as real estate agents, we as working professionals, we as people in society are taught to overcome objections, to find solutions, to problem solve, and those are all fantastic things. But for some reason, I feel like we are never taught to meet needs, and those needs are almost always emotional in nature. It is very rare to encounter a person who is legitimately hungry or starving or out in the cold. It is very common to meet someone who does not feel secure or does not feel free. These people are all around you, and they are dying to have their needs met. And that could be your partner sitting across from you right now. It could be your business partner in some shared venture. It could be a coworker. It could be your child or your parent, or it could be your best friend. But you know they have an unmet need. And I encourage you to think critically about the world and your relationships in it from the lens of polarity and understanding masculine and feminine energy, and how you can meet the needs of others in all that you do. Because it does not matter whether or not you get snow tires on your car. It does not matter if you have to have a masculine game face on in your day job. It does not matter if you are a being of limitless masculine or feminine power, and you feel like your needs are not being met by your partner or whatever, because you are such a high-powered person. I think that it is really encouraging and refreshing to realize that no matter who we are, no matter what situation we're in, we all have needs that aren't met. I have needs that aren't met right now. And I'm going to talk to the people in my life about how those needs are not met, which sounds crazy because I have so much that I'm grateful for, but I can always have more. And to say that you have unmet needs is not to admit a fault. That's a fault in our culture, that we have to put pictures on Facebook about how perfect our lives are. We all lead imperfect lives. We all lead amazing lives that can be even more amazing. And when we look at the world through the lens of polarity, we can meet each other's needs in incredible ways we didn't even realize were possible before. So I hope that you take something away from this and go out and change the life of someone that you have an intimate relationship with. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.